Okay, so welcome you all to our Bahujan Scholar First Gen Voice series. And today's topic is cracking the academic language barrier. My name is Bharat Rathod. I'm the founder and president of Bahujan Scholar. Bahujan Scholar is a network of graduate students, faculty, professionals from outside India. And the purpose of this network is to support scholars from Bahujan communities, building networks, mentoring group and one-on-one mentoring programs, and organize online events on academic and professional development topics like this one. This is our 27th seminar event, and all our webinars are posted on our Bahujan Scholar YouTube channel, so you can access anytime. And for more information, please visit us at bahujanscholars.org. And for today's event, we have a moderator, my dear friend, Vishal Jankar. So Vishal, now I'm hand over this session to you. So you can introduce briefly yourself and then panelists, and please start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat, and JB, everyone who's here. Uh, Thank you, Bharat, for doing this for this particular webinar for I don't know for how many years, and I really admire the work that Bahujan Scholars has been doing all these years. Uh, I have the job of moderating today's session, and let me briefly introduce myself before I introduce the two main speakers that we have today. So I am a PhD candidate in public affairs at the University of Minnesota, and my brief research, I mean, to briefly introduce about my research. So I look at the enduring significance of land for caste oppressed communities in India, and I use both applied econometrics and political ethnography to kind of understand how land is significant for Dalits, and land does not only have kind of economic significance, but it also has other meanings, kind of dignity and self-respect. So I'm kind of exploring that through my dissertation, and I'm very happy to have two distinguished speakers today, and I'll introduce them soon after the introduction. We'll have about 20 minutes each, roughly, for each of the speakers to talk about today's topic. And after that, we'll have about 20 odd minutes to have question and answers from the participants, those who are attending this session. So feel free to drop your questions during the talk or after the talk, and we'll see how much we can cover in the time that we have. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker. So we have Ashish Kumar P with us, and he is a first generation Dalit filmmaker, university graduate, and interdisciplinary artist from Hyderabad, India. Welcome, Ashish. He is currently an assistant professor of digital media and communications at the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford. uh, his work explores caste, memory, and identity through documentary film, sound, and collaborative media art. Ashish began his career in Bollywood film and television production as part of an editing team before moving into independent filmmaking. His current project, uh, which is In Slash Dignity, is a feature-length documentary about Babasaheb Ambedkar statues across India and the United States and the communities who protect, honor, and draw strength from them. Through his creative practice, he works to make space for marginalized histories and the assertion of dignity in public life. So, Ashish, over to you. Yep.
JBM everyone, it's pleasure. Thank you, Bharat, for giving me this opportunity. I usually hide myself from not going out anywhere. I just put my work out and I engage with community more like on the ground. I've been part of a lot of interesting things I did in my life. Uh, yeah, I'm here right now. I want to share a piece of my film with you right now before going into the speech. But I just want you to stop the recording because I don't. The film is getting released very soon. I don't want the film's pieces to be online because of license. Because I've been working with Netflix and other OTT platforms. They don't want to see any of the things online. So I will start my talk. Talking about me, I am a first generation university going student. I was born and brought up in Hyderabad. I'm a Tamilian. It's a very different situation for me because, like when I was growing up, I like all friends of mine used to say, "Oh, you're a Tamilian. You don't belong to here. You're not a Hyderabadi." Then when I go to Tamil Nadu, they said, "Oh, you're a Teluguite. You're not a Tamil Dalit." So I have this constant problem with me calling I don't see that whether you are a Hyderabadi or a Tamilian or Teluguite. I feel the pain of being a Dalit is been there for me from my childhood, which has been a very traumatic experience for me. So that's have been a very interesting way of I looking at things very differently. Then I started my career my dad, my father who was working in a factory. He took me to the first statue where I was being introduced to Baba Sahib through statues, and it hit me so strong that I've been looking statues as an art. I think I have seen more than 400 statues right from different generations and stuff. So statues has been a very inspiration, but also is a problematic for me in that context. So photos and images have been an academic life for me. I was not a great student in my school days. I used to flunk my subjects. I was not good in English, but visually I was very good, and orally I was very good. Uh, till till intermediate, I didn't even know I had a kind of dyslexia, where I couldn't read things properly because my parents didn't know how to have this problem. And when I approached teachers, they said, "Oh, you are like this. You people are like this. You can't do anything." So I thought it's naturally for me. So I didn't even take an initiative to approach my way of thinking in reading and writing. So reading and writing was a very painful situation for me. I couldn't read properly, I couldn't write properly, but the only strength I had was I used to record myself on a tapes. My dad was working he was an electrician, so he had some second hand tape recorder at that particular time. The story starts with where I feel like talking English. I used to read a newspaper, but I used to read improper English at all. So I used to record myself in the cassettes and hear it back. This is where I started my, the way I improved my English. So visually, I became very strong. I became very strong in my oral communications than in written. So written has been a very bad back pain for me. I never used to see writing is an important tool. Uh, so visually, I become a filmmaker. I've become very good in technician. So technology was my way of looking as an academic career. As an artist, I call myself a technical artist, where technology also is very good. I use a lot of technologies in way I do my artwork. So I call myself as from roots to content over language. Growing up, I did not have library. I had no environment. My family did not write essays. I lived in a very deprivative and discriminative life, in a very different sense. So the machine became my university. I recorded my birth songs. I used to record songs, street characters, film scores on this small tape, and I had only two tapes. I used to come record that and then play it, and that's where I've been hearing and writing, hearing and writing. I tried to write, but I couldn't write. But I entered formal education and I hit a wall. I realized I had the content, the stories of my community, the lived reality, marginalized way I look at, but I lacked in language of my academy. I didn't have language in academy at all. So many might face this same dilemma. I think your I feel, there are two kinds of things. Like, one, you are very good with your language, but you have language, but the perspective of thinking is not same. Like, some people have very good knowledge with content, like, you have good contacts, you understand what the content is. But when this two is, there's always this balance between, if you have a good language, you try not good with content, but if you have a good content, you have problem with knowledge. This is called a two category struggle. uh, Category A is great language, weak content. Category B is rich content and struggle with language. So I belong to the second category, where I have rich contents with me, but I couldn't write in a very. I struggle a lot when I write in a rich content. So when I moved to US in my MFA program, I did my MFA in Southern Illinois University. I observed something crucial. There are two types of students. Like, the first type has a perfect grammar, polished sentence, and sophisticated vocabulary. They sound very academic, but often when you strip away the jargon, there is no real substance. There's a lack of content. So that is the first type I realize. The second type is where I fit it in as a deep vernacular content. I have struggled. I have observed society. I have stories that need to be told. I have seen struggle to translate the intercity of text to academic language. I realized that while people in first category might get easy grades, people in the second category, people like us, have a potential to change the world because we have something real to say. The challenge is how we build that bridge. So how we build that bridge, I realized that, I used, after moving here, I have different channels to navigate my things. Before going how to build that bridge, I want to also think about the mother tongue dilemma, thinking in circles. So when I speak in English, right, I try to speak first in my brain with my Tamil language, and then translate those words into English. So this is a very important thing. Like, we are so vernacularly. We always think in our mother tongue. Like, that's a very psychological perspective. Whenever we try to talk, right, like, we always think in our mother tongue and try to translate. And this is where I'm working on in a very artistic form. Like, every time when I talk in my class also, like, I have all white and black people in my class. So they have a very polished and very sophisticated English. But I try to, whenever I talk in the class, I think in my brain, in my mother tongue. And sometimes now it's so complicated for me because I think in Tamil, Telugu, and Hindi, and then try to translate those into English. And it's a very unique skill that, as we have spoken so many languages, and we try to use those translation in our mind. So it takes a challenge. It's the biggest challenge I faced. But I know focused. So every time people say me, like, why are you looking at the stars, like, when you talk, why are you looking? But I'm translating. I think here is the biggest challenge I faced, and I know many of you face the same in a they are called very translation trap. I do not think in English. I think in my mother tongue. My thoughts are raw, emotional, and complex in my native language. But when I sit to write an academic paper or any creative art, I translate to those thoughts into English. What happens? The sentence becoming clunky, the emotion is lost, the grammar is wrong. Think. Uh, Here, when I was writing my documentary script, right, uh, what I did, I first recorded myself in my native language. I recorded myself in the native language, and then translated that to English. I did transcripts of that. And it's a movement. Like, it takes time, but I feel it helps you to grow. Because you have so much rich content. You have so many important thoughts. When you write in your native language and your native mother tongue, you will not lose the emotion. You will not lose the content. yeah, jargon and sophisticated words are there. But when you have that content ready, right, when you transcribe into English, we have a lot of tools now. Like we are moving into a very AI world, so translation is not a big deal. Everything is not like AI will give you a lot of stuff, but I think so the content they can't provide the content what we have from the field work, right? So that's the way. The second thing, the third thing which comes for me is reading like a thief. Uh, till till late I'm I'm early. I'm 40 right now, but till 30s, I was scared to read. I never used to read. So what I did is what I started doing. I used to go in the field and having conversation with different people. I used to go and talk to so much people that I feel talking to people has become a books for me. Like reading more than reading. There's a saying in Chinese that when you talk to people, you get more knowledge than you read a book. Uh, but I don't agree with that. But I feel, but I learned a lot from people. I think I used to make so much deep conversations with people around in the field. So that has become an inspiration for me to, those thoughts are always there in my mind. Then when I came here and I started reading more, and there's a counter, right? Whatever you saw in life and what you read is not the same. There is some differences. So I felt like, then I started using their language from the readings and try to put my content in my writing. So that has become a very sharpness in my language structure itself. So the first assignment I got here when I was doing my MFA was to write my artist statement. It's a 3-page artist statement. My professor wanted me to write 3 pages, but I wrote 12 pages first, and I gave it to him 12 pages, and he said, this is too much. Then I moved to 6 pages, then I moved to 3 pages. But yeah, I think when you read and write, like it's a process in a very different content. You have to give time, you have to give energy, you have to give that process, use different technologies. At this point of generation, we have so much tools to use, but I think using in a very right way is more important. And I think that's the crux of academic writing. Most important is that you have to read and write, and and how to enhance that writing is very important. That's where I end my talk here, and I would love to have more conversations. If people have questions, I would help in that way. But for me, I am a very visual person. I am a oral and a visual person, and then I transform from there to my writing skills. So now I write poems. Like I've been a very poetic person right now. I do write a lot of poems and use poems as an form of art in my oral way. So the other important thing I felt was I was very scared of doing my voiceover. So in my film, I took a risk. I didn't bother about my slang. All the voiceovers in my film are of mine. So it's a we should not get demotivated. Oh, our voice is not good, our slang is not good, we should not talk, we should not do. You should just forget about things, just think about yourself, and what you're doing is right. And if you feel what you're doing is right, nobody can say anything. And that's what I took that step. I used my voice as my voiceover in my film. So that's an important thing which I took an inspiration from different people and different things. Yeah, I would like to have more questions, and then I want to talk about it.
Thank you, Ashish. Can't wait to see this your film, and please share if it's going to be screened anywhere, in the United States or anywhere else. And if you have any link, I would really like to see it myself, and probably others would also like to do the same.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other listeners would have found this talk as inspiring, and probably it would have resonated as much. I felt it deeply. I do have a lot of questions that I would like to know more from you. And if you others feel so, please feel free to drop your questions either to specifically to Ashish or to any of our speakers. And uh, and we'll move to our next speaker. Yeah, so let me introduce our next speaker, although it may not require so, but let me still kind of, take you through our next speaker's brief bio. So we have Gaurav J. Pathania, who's an assistant professor of sociology and peace building at Eastern Mennonite University in Harrisonburg. I might be mispronouncing it, but yeah, in Virginia. Gaurav has also been a visiting scholar at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and the University of South California. His first book, The University as a Site of Resistance, Identity and Student Politics, which is published by Oxford University Press in 2019, explores student resistance and higher education in India. Currently, his research focuses on the socio-political activism of the South Asian diaspora in the US and UK. Dr. Pathania serves as a deputy editor of for South Asia Research, a journal published by SOAS University of London. And everybody knows that Gaurav made his Hollywood debut in Ava DuVernay's film Origin, portraying Dr. Ambedkar, the architect of the Indian Constitution. So, Dr. Pathania, please.
Thank you, Vishal, and Jai Bhim, everyone. And thank you, Ashish, for such a insightful presentation. And of course, thanks, Bharat, for organizing this. I want, this is all the effort that Bharat has been doing. So I really appreciate all this, he bringing us together. It's a lot of background work that he does. So on behalf of Bahujan Scholars, I welcome you all. And I really liked the way Ashish has framed his talk. And I love the word he used, translation trap. And that's very important word, which I was also kind of trying to convey in my talk. It's kind of I currently I'm working uh, on a volume on time, temporality, and caste, and we're trying to understand this how, because here what you are talking about in the context of Dalit student and your own experience, so there's always a temporal delay, but that delay is not personal. It has a history. So there is that time gap. So like if we think of what Martin Heidegger would say, that how the translation from vernacular language into English for Dalits, because those who were historically excluded from reading and writing. So this could be understood not merely as a linguistic act, but as a temporal struggle of being in itself. And this is where their emotions that formed in lived experience, collective memory, that exceeds from available vocabulary, even in the mother tongue. It's not just the English, but even your own mother tongue, because we are not given these words. So it is so challenging to just translation is a temporal unfolding here. Meanings are not instantly transferable, but must emerge through a process in which suppressed histories, they are always seeking words. So the difficulty is ontological rather than technical. So the struggle of bringing into language what has been denied articulation for centuries. So I think this is in a way, now we find different articulation. You found through movies. I'm a poet. I like doing it through poetry. And today I thought, instead of just going doing all these talks, I was thinking I try to put things in. Again, you see here another struggle. I write in Hindi, and then my struggle is translating poetry. I mean, when I write academic writing, it automatically the brain function in English. That you could never happen in Hindi. But when I have to write something about literary writings, that automatically goes in Hindi. So it's translating that poetry is such a struggle, and I never do that. I always ask some friend, I said, can you translate this poem? So this is the struggle. But for today's talk, I was just thinking, because the goal is not to engage you, those who are doing PhD in the US, or completed their PhD. It's basically some of our friends who are joining for the first time, or who are the PhD students. They can, those who are always struggling with their language and all. So I was just wanted to first share a little bit about myself, and then want to talk about Ambedkar and his struggle. So I'm here, someone who uh, found academia not welcoming, but I think someone who entered in it because it was necessary. It was very necessary. I was born in a local dialect in Haryana called Haryanvi, rough like soil, honest like sweat. So learning Hindi itself felt like crossing a border. Just learning Hindi, you can imagine learning Hindi in a state, or English is far, far away. So, in a state like Haryana, where even MA English is taught in Hindi, so that is where the fluency was a currency and accent was a status. So, pure Hindi meant educated, English meant elevated status. So I was born in a village where language carried mud on its feet. Primary school with my closest friend who is still there, who I speak to him almost every day in the mother tongue, and which we both were born into. So, but when you think broadly, that we were all born into a structures of hierarchy of caste, where silence and they turned slowly into speech. So, caste was not a chapter in our book, it was a room that we grew up in. And you all agree to that. And it was the air that decided who would speak, who would sit, and who dares to speak. And yet, I think education, what it did to all of us, it whispered a possibility. And it didn't give us safety, didn't give us ease, but it opened up a possibility. And that is the only possibility that we have been living for. So now let me tell you a story about Dr. Ambedkar. So a young boy born into a so-called untouchable caste, sitting in a classroom in colonial India, and because of his father, he was allowed to attend school, but he's not allowed to sit with others. He's not allowed to drink water from the common pot. He is present, but he is not included. So now imagine the psychological message that sends, that you may be there, but you do not belong. And that boy grows up. He travels to Columbia University, then he goes to London School of Economics. He studies law, economics, political science. But what is extraordinary about him, that he does not just earn degrees, he masters language. Not conversational language, intellectual language, legal language, constitutional language, economic language. And that's what mattered, because caste operated not through rituals and religion, but through scriptures, interpretation, and argument. That's what it was all about. So Manusmriti justified hierarchy in Sanskrit. Now, Ambedkar is dealing with the colonial administration, justified inequality in English, colonialism, who justified inequality in English. Now, power speaks in language. So, and Ambedkar understood something very revolutionary. And if oppression is argued into existence, it must be argued out of existence. So, he studied, he read philosophers, he dissected religious texts, he analyzed economics, he sharpened legal reasoning, and when he stood to speak at the Round Table Conference in London, he was no longer the boy denied water. He was a scholar dismantling empire in the empire's own language, English. And when he wrote Annihilation of Caste, he did not shout, he reasoned line by line, evidence by evidence. He exposed contradictions, he questioned authority, and he dismantled myth through logic. And that is the power, not loudness, but precision. And when he chaired the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution, he was not asking for dignity. He was writing it into law. And think about that journey, from being denied the right to touch water to writing the legal framework of a nation. And so what changed? This was all access to language. Imagine if Ambedkar would have, thought of just learning Sanskrit because that was the language of the Brahmins. But no, he knew what is the language that will change their future. So the access to language, the mastery of arguments, and control over intellectual all tools, and that comes through language again. So now here, when you talk about the language in academia, so language is never neutral. Whoever defines the term of debate, he controls the debate. Whoever writes the law shapes society. So whoever frames the narrative, that if he's influencing history. So Ambedkar did not simply learn English, he weaponized clarity. He turned grammar into justice. He turned argument into equality. He turned language into liberation. And he didn't lose himself while mastering the language of power. That's, I think, another thing what I learned about America. He did not erase his experience. He translated it. He took the pain of untouchability and articulated it in a way that the world could not ignore. And that is the transformation. So language is not something about sounding elite, as I think, Ashish was pointing out, that, it is not just he's saying that three different types of people, language speaker, and I completely agree. So language is not something sounding elite. It is about being unignorable, that someone should not ignore you when you are in the room. So when you work now, people who are doing PhDs and writing paper, when you work on your research paper, and when you struggle with vocabulary, when you hesitate before speaking in class, remember that boy, Dr. Ambedkar, in the classroom, denied water. Now imagine him drafting constitutional rights. And so the language can also exclude you, or you can master it. And once you master it, you do not just enter the room, you reshape it. And this is the journey, I think, what I would say Ambedkar has been, Ambedkar's journey, and how his refinement of language. And language in academia also, when I entered in academia, and I learned that language is not neutral, and it is academia measure legitimacy through it all the time. Your accent, your fluency, your presentation. And many of us know this, what we want to say, long before we know how to polish it. Idea, how to polish it, or experiences, how to convey our experiences. So when we hesitate, not because we lack thought, but because we fear. And Ambedkar teaches us this, that refine your language, but do not erase yourself. And practice speaking, practice writing, practice presenting, not to imitate power, but to challenge it. That's what I learned from Ambedkar. That it's not about imitating what these people are doing, but to challenge them. And because language can be armor. Uh, so here, what Bharat was giving this title, the cracking the academic language. I see it that language can be used as an armor. Language can be a bridge, and language can be revolution. And that's why when you look at now in last 20 years of our Ambedkarite movement in India, it's the language that is connecting. It's the language that is giving us that weightage. And that's why, Professor Kanchalaya, who, started mm, kind of talking about English as that and then in UP, you must have heard there is a English goddess that is being worshipped, and they made a statue of it. So there is something very, very powerful about language that needs to be studied, and I think that can shape our future. And I always say that it is not, you cannot do now anything without language in academia. So now think of, I'm putting in a very poetic way. Why are we now, like say Bharat and many of us who are giving our time and bringing our people together? Because to me, this group, this solidarity is more important, that uh, that can take us ahead. So I'm just now ending it with a poetic imagination. So now imagine a dark room, And that darkness is the caste system. The caste is the darkness. But then you have a lamp there which is empty, but the education, the training, that is the oil in it. And the writings of Dr. Ambedkar are the flame for us. But it has no meaning if you don't have the oxygen, the wind uh, that would lighten the flame, and that is the community. That I find community is the wind that keeps this flame alive. So if we only admire the lamp, these degrees, these if we only admire the lamp, nothing changes. But if we light it together, then we can transform the room. And that is what I think. I, as an academic, as a poet, as an activist, I see some Ambedkar as someone who I personally needed Ambedkar, not just as an intellectual, but also as a counselor, a intellectual companion. So when caste structure tries to diminish us, remember that we are not the problem. We are not inadequate. The structure is, and unfortunately, we are thrown in this structure, and we have to. So now let's become a community that can think beyond this structure. And that there's never a right time. So I would always encourage that we should be uh, having more build. Let us build it collectively, and let us resist intelligently, and let us read together deeply, and let us speak clearly. So that's the motto that we should always have. So I'll stop here because the time is short. So I would love to engage with more questions that you have. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you, Gaurav. This is indeed poetic. I mean, I think not only the imagining, the end was poetic imagination, but throughout what you were showing was like, your grasp over the language and your poetry was flowing through all your what you speak for like 20 minutes. So this was really inspiring. And you also set the goal when you say that it's not only about entering the room, but shaping the deliberations, the discussions in that room is something that we should imagine, envision ourselves doing that. And you give a kind of a right example of Dr. Ambedkar, how he would have gone through this journey. Somebody who denied the water to somebody who shaped, a country like India. So I think with that, I would invite people. I already see two not yeah questions. So would any of you would like to? I may read that, or if there are other people who want to raise hands and ask questions, they can also do once we have these questions. Yeah, Bharat, please go ahead.
Yeah, that feedback form, please announce.
Sorry.
Please announce the feedback form to get the
Yeah.
feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, so Bharat has already shared a feedback form. So please go to that link and share your feedback so that we can make this event more kind of helpful for those who attend these. So please take a minute or two to respond to that feedback form. Let me just go through what Sarbeswar Sahu they are saying. I think all of us struggle with English, and those fluent with English in India struggle with the US accent. Though I was never in the US, I observed this. Not only speaking but following the fast English spoken in the US is also difficult for me. I prefer to switch on subtitles while watching movies. I think hard work and through constant practice, one can get rid of these bottlenecks. Language may be important, but ultimately it's brevity that ultimately matters. And we'll also connect to the next question. Inspiring and interesting talk. Joined for the first time, Honorable Sir and Ma'am. These talks happen more often with which great aims. Yeah, okay. Maybe we can respond to that later. But so, Ashish or Gaurav, do you want to respond to Sarveshwar Sahu's kind of a text here? And especially if I can make it into a question or, to
Mhm.
connect to what you both had spoken. And especially I would draw from what Ashish stated, there's this type A and type B, and I
Mhm.
found it very interesting that, there could be rich content, but, somebody struggling with language, and vice versa, somebody has a great kind of, skill over, command over language, but the content may not be great, right? So how do you and Gaurav also spoke about bridging these differences, imagination. So could you respond to how do maybe efforts and hard work and how can one work towards having certain form of fluency, expertise in writing, especially if you are in academic world? Ashish, would you like to take this up?
Uh, yeah, I think Gaurav could say. I would just it like when I came here, right? Like my so the biggest problem we face as South Asian or mostly Indian is that we learned British English, and British English has a different slang and pronunciation, and the US English has a very different pronunciation. The thing I learned is that when you speak right, you have to speak slow. Like for them, it feels like we are running like a like a like a horse. Like we have to just structure our words, and if you have clarity of what you're speaking, it doesn't matter. It is all the content, but the words. It's not the jargon words you use, right? It's the simple words you use, and I feel that's what I struggled a lot, but I worked by talking more, reading more books. If you read more US based readers, like or French philosophers books, I read a lot. And then I'm a big fan of William Raymond's keywords book has helped me to understand the whole words itself, how words play an important keywords book. And those kind of books, if you read and you get used to it. It's all about having conversation at home also. Try to speak in English. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying to read more in English and talk in English. If you want to come here, that's what I would focus on. Gaurav, you can say. I'm just talking from my own personal point of view.
Yeah, I know, totally agree. Yeah, I think you said it right that this speed that we and it's not just the English, any language. When you learn a new language, when like say when I was there doing my field work, I was trying to learn Telugu. So because we don't, that's not my language, so I'm learning, and then whenever I would say, and I would try to just kind of throw it out very fast because you're at the same time translating and all. That's how the speed becomes very fast, and then the person who is listening cannot understand really what you were trying to say. So that same thing happened with me with English. With English, because it is an academic language, it's the language of the world, so here it's more pressure. And so I would say that the it's many times you people you know you just have to speak steadily, and that comes with when you have more reading. When you read more, and your confidence grows from preparation, not from comparison. If you keep comparing yourself, no, it has to come from within. And that's why many of and that happens in writing as well. It's all kind of all two-way process. That's why I always say to our students that when you learn English, so reading, writing, and speaking has to go simultaneously. So when you practice, you have to go, because imagine that a section which is denied for centuries, now we are learning it for the first time. Like the other day, I was talking to my niece, and she was not able to pronounce, and she's doing the master, not able to pronounce the words sociology, and doing master in sociology. So now I'm saying that when you are denied these 4 centuries, so you have to just think that you have to practice 10 times more than them. So when you speak, you practice a lot. And otherwise language could be very, not could be, it is always excluding others. So but it has to be liberating, and it can also empower you. It can you can refine, and also do not lose your voice. But that's what the message I think Ashish was trying to give you, that in this rat race of language, do not lose your voice, and you gain vocabulary, and then master the tool, and but then use them to build something more, uh, just than the structure that you inherited. You have to do that, and that could only come when you take the inspiration from the as I mentioned earlier, that when I feel like sometime low, like research paper got rejected. That happens a lot to us. We got 80% rejection, 10, 20% publication, whatever I have today. So that day, when you see this email rejection of a research paper, you feel low, then you don't even feel like eating that day. What motivates you then? Then you go back to Ambedkar's writing and see that how he writes. There is no jargon in his writing, very clear, very fluent, because his audience, he knew that he's not writing for these caste Hindus. He's writing for his own people who will read him in future. So you have to have broadened that argument. And the thing is, just practice every day in front of mirror. If you can talk to that, automatically the hesitation will come out. We remember, I mean, we could not even pronounce the simple hello, how are you was also a big deal for us. Hmm? So now it's just a practice. And writing, sharing, never feel hesitant, never feel sorry for what you said. You just keep revising. It's a repetition. So language is all about repetition. That's all. Hmm.
Yeah, I think these are simple. I mean, probably I was wanting to ask is what could be some of the ways you have cracked these barriers?
Hmm.
And I think what we heard from both Ashish and Gaurav is, different ways, small, practical ways, everyday ways by which we can actually crack these barriers. I think this was helpful. I would put up like, next two questions. And if anybody wants to raise their hand and ask something, feel free to do so so that we can be more conversational. So Subhas, do you think that given the fact that it has been denied for such a long time, starting with accent neutralization, than aiming at aping the British or American accent might help? There's also one note. Uh, Dr. Amardeep says that very inspirational lectures. Gaurav's talk especially remind me of my early days of research. He also did correction and proofreading of my research work. I feel at this time this is doing great work to motivate us to do something better and deeper. Thank you. And Mahesh has this. As able reading candidates, we often overlook those who cannot read and instead depend on auditory or visual means of learning. It is striking how caste and social exclusion further deepen such inequalities. This raises an important question: what support systems exist within Indian state government for such individuals, and how are they perceived, included in contexts like United States, where inclusion frameworks are more institutionalized? Yeah, so can we take these comments slash questions if you want to respond to anything specific? Yeah. So one is
Hmm.
about accent neutralization. The second theme is about helping each other. Something which Gaurav alluded to is about building the community, helping each other, and seeing it as a collective journey rather than individual achievement. And yeah, so and third thing is about the more of inclusive policies in education where people from very diverse ways of learning, ways of knowing could also be incorporated in our educational pedagogy. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Vishal. Yeah, and thank you, Amardeep ji. Yeah, Amardeep is he's our senior from JNU, and he's from my state, and he's teaching there now in Chandigarh. And what I know, like you see how we know each other. I know him as he's a very serious historian, and that's we never thought of language at all. We just say that he's doing a very serious work and very dedicated, and that's what was inspiring. So again, I think I'm just reiterating what Ashish said, that it should not be just language, but language is the medium, so we have to master it in whichever way. So I would also request that people who are listening, just open your mic and say and talk, and try to express and talk to each other. And Bharat is, I want to also give this announcement that Bharat is always available for you. If you want to reach out, have any issue, personal or professional, Bharat is there to help us. And I think this is a big help. This is a great support he's providing to many of our PhD students. So I really admire for what he's doing. And feel free to reach out. That's the goal, that we build this community where we can rely on each other. And I always tell my all of you that if you write a paper, share with us for our comments. right?
Mm.
And whichever way we can help, that's the goal.
Great. Dr. Prachi Patil, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? I can't hear you if you are speaking.
Prachi?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So, Gaurav, I really like the idea of Dr. Ambedkar as an intellectual companion. Can you throw some more light on that?
Yeah, thank you, Prachi. So what I learned actually while I was in JNU, and I was reading in English, Ambedkar in English for the first time, because as a part of the movement, we grew up reading his writings in Hindi, translated, we don't know even exact writing we were reading. But when we came to JNU, we got all the Baba Sahib Ambedkar writing and speeches in English and all, and then we were reading. But I was told by some of the senior uh, students and activists. They said, when you read Ambedkar, don't just read and finish the book. No, ask him the question, engage with him. That how would you? And then the more you think on asking, in terms of asking question, you will understand Ambedkar more, because you will
Hmm.
find the answer in another. So this engagement is missing. I noticed that nowadays, if you go to JNU or HCU, in students hostel room, you will find some Ambedkar's writing and speeches, some texts are there, but you will find they don't engage it. It become a showcase, that it's like hosting or holding or having hanging a picture of Dr. Ambedkar in the room,
Yeah.
but there is no engagement. And that way, I think we are not making him a intellectual companion. We are just making him as a showpiece. So that's what I meant by intellectual companion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That was brief and succinct, and still, it gives a lot of thought uh, for us to proceed. Thank you, Gaurav.
Mhm.
Mahesh and Bankar, do you want to go next? Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. This is really very thoughtful session. So my question is to Ashish. Ashish, thanks for sharing your journey. So like in this session, there are a couple of us who are also educators. Um, so you spoke about how you felt excluded in this predominantly hegemonic way of learning, where the teachers are trained to serve those who can read, who can let's say speak fluently, right? So from your school days, now do you see any change or any support systems or policies that are introduced in the let's say we both are from Telangana schools, or any other schools, and I'm sure you would have observed some sort of difference in the way the inclusion is practiced in the US. So what lessons can you share with us? Yeah, thank you.
Uh, I think what I learned, like frankly saying, I think when I didn't knew I had dyslexia till my undergrad first year, because I went to a Jesuit school college, and my one of the priest who was our HOD, he was like, Ashish, you talk very nicely. Why, when it comes to writing, why there is some problem? Orally, you're good. And I think he figured out, and he personally took me to a doctor, and he introduced me, this is the problem. And it's like I have 15 to 20% of dyslexia problem, where I can read, but I add my own words. So in that context, I think some universities or colleges, like for example, in University of Hyderabad, we had other organizations. Support system was all our community. I think that was where I was grown up. Like the discussion we had in I was part of Ambedkar Student Association. We used to raise questions, and that was more important thing. I think in Telangana state, I don't think so till now there is any support system has been existed. They don't talk about mental wellness also, because they feel it's a very problematic. And I think we have to, I think, as a community, from within the community, in the spaces like this, I feel that's where we engage more. The other point I wanted to say, nobody, if you appoint a, a professional also, a person like me would not go and engage with them because the trust you have towards them. I would rather go to a person who is from the community, from the community, who is like, oh, I can trust them, they will not be judgmental. The judgmental thing is a very complicated thing. We always seek, oh, what will they think, and the thing judgmental is very problem, where we don't go out with vulnerable, we don't show our vulnerability to any random people. But if I see a Dalit Ambedkarite, there is a trust, there is some kind of trust where I get little bit open up and be vulnerable. And that's where, as a community, like as Gaurav said, that as a community, if we can work together, like what Bharat is doing in this context, I would say this is a platform for us, to engage those kind of conversations where we lack, and we have to be open up with our vulnerabilities. Till we don't share our vulnerabilities within the community, I think that's where we are not learning anything, and we're not fighting for it. Like, showing your vulnerability is very important within the community itself. Being non-judgmental, I think that's the kind of way I can look at it. Things. Gaurav, do you want to say anything about that?
Oh, no, no, I think you said it all. I just wrote actually what I was earlier, to answer Prachi's question. I was just kind of putting in words so you can, you share with each other. Yeah. Yeah.
So that I like you have posted a poem, Gaurav, like.
No, I was just typing what I just already said, so I added more in it. I always think in a poetic sense, so it's always that. That's how my brain
Yeah,
works.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. So, and when you post something and the way it's written, I thought probably you would have actually posted a poem. Anyway, so are there any further questions that people would like to ask? Or you wanna? Yeah, please go
Uh,
ahead.
Namaste. I am the only Nepali here. But since I had beautiful time in India, and when I was small, my tone was like Indian tone. It's like whenever when I was away from home, my dad was listening Manisha Koirala's interview till like when he was really missing me. Then he was like, oh, sit, her Nepali is not clear like my daughter. So he will be waiting. So I was from the border area in India, Bihar. So it's my like culture, everything's like that. So maybe in that way I'm mixed here with the Indians. And thank you so much. I'm honored, Gauravji, for today. It's particularly for inviting me. I mean, Ashish, when I listen to you, I mean, it sounds like exaggeration, but tears were dropping down from from my eyes, and then it was rather emotional. It's like when I talk about things like whatever you say, like it's a traumatizing, the past comes back. And again, you go back to the same dome there, and the blood boils, and then it feels anger or frustration or depression. Like I say, like our people, like those who are intellectually understanding the situation, they're all depressed because they cannot erase it because I was born in that particular caste. It's not in my, it's a fate or luck, I don't know. But like how to change, and like education could not change, the culture excellence could not change, beauty, brand, nothing changed. You remain untouchable. The best example is Baba Sahib Ambedkar, right? So it's like so today's presentation, both Gauravji and Ashish Kumarji's presentation, it was like the best, one of the best that I have attended. I would say, like, even one of that I found it's so high that I attended in the House of Commons. It was so gravitational. It was so strong. It was academically, it's like from grassroots to intellectual height. I'm like honored to be here today. And actually, like I I used to craft, like I used to go to talk. I mean, like I'm since young age I was also talking. It's like I'm like against the discrimination. So I actually, when Gauravji was telling. Of course, you are intellectual professor now, right? So I was restructuring my, like, how I have written my stories. Like earlier, I used to tell my testimonies, yeah, like in Nepal and outside. So it's told, like right now, my dad, like I changed the story beginning today. So it's like, thank you so much. And Bharatji, I'm so honored. Like last time you wanted to contact, like send me like that. So from today, strictly I want to be in the network, and I'm honored. Thank you so much. Also, like I also work on the documentaries, and like I was remembering when Delhi flood was there, I was interviewing in Bihar about, we're doing a caste documentary. So when I was interviewing those, like that time Naxalites, they were telling like, we caught the people and then we ate their pieces because they discriminate us like so badly, as those are records, like they were telling, because the atrocities of caste, it's so high. So that time, like as a Dalit woman, I was interviewing in Patna. I was harassed so badly, so badly. So even the flight, that Delhi flight flood was there, I had to really leave Patna because it's so insecure for me after doing interviews and things. So I had to come to Delhi and be there for 24 hours at the airport. That is my experience working as a Dalit women researcher on caste. Thank you.
Thank you, Anitaji, for sharing your experience. Yeah. And I don't know if any of you want to respond to that, or yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. Yeah, I think you should definitely get in touch with Ashish and share your the documentary that you were working on. So good. And here is, I'm just looking at Vishal. I'm looking at this question Mahesh posed about AI, which is kind of the question of our time. And I think Vishal, you can also answer that. But in the we are in this. Ambedkar Jayanti, coming Jayanti, I was invited by the Chicago folks in that area. So I would be also, I was asked to speak on AI a little bit about. So, but I think it's a longer talk we can definitely do. But I say that AI is a tool. And but what is happening or what happens over a period of time, it actually is taken as an authority. And uh, and if it is about authority, then you know that who would rule, who already are authoritative in society. So, but we are not taking it as a tool. It will eventually take over everything. So there are all these challenges, and who will be kind of feel discriminated in this entire digital world that we will come in. So Maheshji, I think I would love to engage with you on this AI. I'm also thinking of the philosophy of AI, how it developed. So definitely. So Sandeep just messaged. So we will be talking there more about AI. But thank you for raising this question. And I think we should all think of it collectively, because this is a challenge. It's a challenge. It's not about ethical or unethical. It's more about that what if this becomes the only authority. What people are doing is to find out whether this is correct or not, this AI material correct is not, they are using another AI tool, right? And that's where the authority aspect comes in.
Okay, so, sorry. For this, Baba Sahib, but for the April, any events are there? I am not notified yet, so I just wanted
You
to
you are based in New York. I think there are many in New York. You will get
let me know.
notification
Okay,
soon. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay. Thank you so much, honored.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anita, let's
So
let let Anita ma'am, let meet. I keep coming to New York sometimes, so
Mm.
I'll be in the second week of March in New York, so we can meet it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I will be attending whole CSW, so yes, I have time those days. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Mm. Yeah.
Awesome. I do think that it requires a dedicated discussion. Thank you for Mahesh Admankar for asking that question. And probably we are almost towards the end of our webinar today. So we'll take one more question because it's already been raised here. And apologies if more people want to ask, but we can continue this discussion. And feel free, as Gaurav said, feel free to approach either one of us. I'm sure Gaurav or Ashish or Bharat or myself, wherever you feel like, and there are other quite speakers in this and scholars in this webinar who to whom also you can approach. For example, I definitely know Mahesh and Mankar is a professor at Oxford University and others. So I would request Dr. Harinath, because he has already raised a question. Please, if would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question? Dr. Harinath, are you there? Yeah.
Harinath?
So assuming.
Yeah, excuse me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, thank you one and all for a wonderful opportunity to hear from both the speakers. Very interesting topic. And I have a question that with regard to the language, in the present context, as we know that uh, to compete in the competitive world, English has become one of the major language for the people to learn and speak and write. But at the same time, what is the role of regional languages? Why? Because majority of the people from the marginalized communities are more habituated in their own mother tongue. They have more skills rather than English writing in their mother tongue or the regional languages, which where they can come up with a good write up and their articulation and their presentation skills also. But the role of regional languages has become I mean, it has become one of the corner. So, what is the views from both the speakers, please? Hello.
Ashish, do you want to go first?
You go first, I'll go first.
Okay. So no, I was just only always thinking that how would Ambedkar answer this question? See, we all have our own language, especially, as an Indian, we all have our own mother tongue, native language, vernacular. We all grew up. None of us grew up speaking English, right? So we took it later on just as a because that's how the world. So I think it's a journey. Language is part of our journey, and it's not that everyone has to learn English, but it is like for example, for academics it is compulsion because the entire knowledge system is in English. And now with this whole now because of AI, you will have more languages. Now you don't need to learn German, you don't need to learn Spanish, you can easily translate from English. So I think with AI tools there will be a lot of this translation tool. You already have, what do you call the Duolingo and all. So these all languages that we're helping. But the question is, if we think from Ambedkar's point of view, that what would get us out of this structure that is oppressing us, and that way English is the medium that could get us out. And let me tell you, very I think I shared in my previous presentations earlier, that people are told, especially the lower castes, are told to stick with Hindi, learn Sanskrit, when it has no use in real life because everything is turned. Now, to give you a quick data, and you can check this on Google, for past 5 years, almost 6 years, every year in the most Hindi speaking state, which is the Uttar Pradesh, every year, Harinath, close to 10 lakh students are failing in Hindi. 10 lakh students failing in Hindi. So, who are these people? If you go and dig out, these are all people who are the coming from affluent families, middle class, though for them Hindi doesn't even count. It is just they are learning English and other languages. Hindi is just a passing tool, but they are failing it because, so who is learning Hindi? It's the our people, is always the marginalized, those who learn vernacular. But does it have a future? So this is what the question. So I'm saying that we should master our vernacular, because that's where our literary, our creative aspects comes in. But language as a tool has to, whichever way, whichever field one is in, he has to do it. Like, for example, people who does coding, the coding the data, they don't need any language. It's just they have a different language. So that way, I think, but if you think from an Ambedkarite movement perspective, what is the language of equality, and what is the language of mobility, and what is the language of resistance? And that is what matters to us for this, for especially for today's time, especially when things are shaped by AI, global capitalism, and then you have academic gatekeeping. How would you break those barriers? And that is where language, still English still carries institutional power. And Ambedkar's likely response would not be emotional rejection of it, but disciplined acquisition. Learn it, use it, democratize it. That's another thing, that when you learn, you also teach it. But never mistake fluency for liberation. Language is a means to social justice, not an end in itself. That's what Ambedkar would say.
Yeah, I just want to point. It's a well said, Gaurav. I just want to say, that there are a lot of translation happens, right? Translation have become a biggest tool in academia world, or in activism world itself, because there are a lot of book festivals happening. But also you see a lot of vernacular language books are being translated to English a lot. There are great writers who write a lot of big, nice, interesting books from the caste angle, let it be in Telugu, Tamil, or Hindi, is been translated to English, and the people who write in English are also translated to Telugu or their regional languages. So there is a scope of that exchange keeps happening. It's not that English is dominating, but the vernacular language is also being used in the downgraded people, where they can only read their own vernacular languages. I think there is a balance in that way aspect.
Uh, we have a few more questions, and also responses, appreciation. Uh, but yeah, we are almost close to our discussion today. Uh, but uh, but I mean, this is never ending, and we would have more sessions. And there's one more question, and Bharat, if you could respond to that. Somebody asked in like quite earlier that how does these sessions get planned, and how can we know about what is going to be the next session? So do you want to quickly respond to that before we formally close it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for that question. First is, as I said, you can reach out to bahujanscholars.org at gmail.com. And we also announce our all the events and posters and flyers on social media. So please write to us, and we will send you updates about the events and our programs.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Bharat. Any last comments from our honorable speakers
I would
before we
also,
formally
let
close
me,
this?
Vishal, I'm just intervening. One point Bharat missed. So we also, our goal is to find out our next. So we generally take our speakers from these audience. So those who, have accomplished in our field. So many of you who are now attending will be called as to share your experiences, because we want to have a documentation of all our experiences. So Bharat had a bigger plan later on to do what to do with these experiences, but that is what we call to share with each other. There are, Vishal, I'm also seeing some of the questions which I wish we had time, but like for example, Harshal Gawande is that many. My question is that because of fear of English and caste judgment, many. So this is a bigger issue. I mean, I think you should definitely read Bharat's book, the Dalit academic journeys, and all of the writing that are we have also done around this. So this is a very major issue of stigma and prejudice. How Dalit overcome, or first to understand how do they face it. So yeah, I would encourage to read some of the research writing. Yeah.
I just want to say that, Bharat, thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to share with Gaurav. It's my pleasure to be part of, being shared with Gaurav. It's my pleasure. I think what Bharat does also is that the mentorship program he's doing it. It's a well, I'm always ready. We are all ready to give a mentorship to people who are coming here or who want to come here. Bharat is doing a great work. I think mentorship is also one of the biggest tool from our community to grow ourselves in whatever field we are, the language or whether it is academic writing or anything. Mentorship is required, and that's what Bharat is trying to do. And if we can be collaborate more in that perspective, that'd be amazing. Thank you, Bharat, for having this great platform. Thank you, Gaurav, for giving me sharing your thoughts of mine with you. I'm very appreciative of
No,
it.
it's a great pleasure, and we look forward to your documentary when it is releasing.
I think I'm working. I'm stuck at a point. We can discuss about where I'm
Okay,
stuck.
sure,
Yeah.
sure, definitely. Yeah, and there are so many people. In today we have new friends.
Well, please now go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, we
I
have
mean,
to
I
maintain.
also,
Yeah.
I am so kind of, got involved into listening to all these people and, their stories, where they come from. So I got, yeah, I would have loved to continue this for I don't know for how long, but yeah, we have a limitation of time. And I would appreciate, as I said it earlier, that feel free to reach out to any of us, and we would be more than happy to continue this discussion in whatever form that is helpful. And thank you, Bharat, once again for organizing this, if kind of for so many years, which has been so helpful. And many of you might know that we have a YouTube channel as well, Bahujan Scholars, where you can actually see previous recordings, previous lectures, and previous discussions. And even this would also become available online soon. And we would, as Bharat said, you can always reach out to the through email ID, through the website, and share your ideas. Don't forget to fill in the feedback form which has already been shared, and share what topics that you would like to take up in the kind of forthcoming discussions. And thank you to our speakers, Gaurav Pathania and Ashish Kumar. It was really always delight and pleasure and inspiring to listen to you. And Ashish, I can't tell you how eager, as Maulik said, eager to see this documentary and spread it around, spread the word, see it across universities. So looking forward to that. Good luck with all the work that is remaining. Well, and let me conclude this. Thank you, everyone, and good night or have a good day wherever you are.
Good night,
Yeah,
JB.
Thank
Have
you all. Yeah.
JB.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.